Welcome to the inner world of filmmaking. I'm your host, Tammy McGarrow. I'm a writer, director, editor, and a podcast producer. In this show, I will interview filmmakers in all facets of production and distribution. In this episode, we have a discussion about working as a Hollywood TV and film actor. I'm so excited to introduce our guest today, Merrick McCartha, who is a full-time actor and has worked in hundreds of productions, including This Is Us, 911, Brooklyn Nine-Nine, Curb Your Enthusiasm, and has a reoccurring role as Simon's dad in All American on CW Network. Welcome, Merrick. So delighted to have you on the show today.
Really great to be here. Thank you.
I just want to start off by saying that I first met you at the San Diego 48-Hour Film Project, working on the film Workplace Politics. Mm-hmm. And I just want to say, I think it's so great that you come down to support the San Diego filmmakers here. You're so kind and friendly and just a delight to work with.
Absolutely. I got my start in earnest with acting in San Diego. So I still have a lot of great friends, and I always see some of the amazing young filmmakers that are coming out of there. So that's always a great time for me.
Yeah, and I see you on a whole bunch of short films, so it's like so great to just have, it's like, oh my God, Merrick's here, you know? So you're originally from Detroit, and you have played many cops in TV shows like Curb Your Enthusiasm, The Bold and the Beautiful, Get Shorty, or an IA agent on Lethal Weapon. And coming from a home where your parents were police officers, do you pull inspiration from your parents in playing these roles?
Absolutely. I think it's weird because I often get told, you look like a cop. You act like, when I did Curb Your Enthusiasm, JB Smoove, who I worked with for my scene, we were joking around. He said, "Man, you look like a cop. You act like a cop." I think it's something that, my parents were these, sort of domineering type people. They had that, the physicality, that persona. I guess I picked up on a lot of that. So when I step into a cop uniform, it's like I know how to put it on. All the prop and wardrobe people are like, "Wow, you've done this before." I'm like, "Yeah, I grew up knowing how this works." So, yeah.
Right. Yeah. Did you ever ask your parents stories to kind of get into the mindset?
I think they told me a lot of great stories growing up when they were working as patrol officers. Some crazy stories. So those are the kinds of things that I draw on when I'm thinking about my role as a police officer. The way they talked, certain lingo, the cadence, the very official nature of certain words they use, I kind of picked up on that. So yeah.
Yeah. And then I also know that you went to school to be an engineer and did work as an engineer for a while. So what made you transition into acting?
I worked as an engineer for, I think, almost 10 years. And I think it was just a combination of things personally, because I felt like I wasn't really getting fulfilled as an engineer in all of my life. I mean, I still love solving problems. I still love mathematics, but I want to do more with myself. And because I had some interest in this acting in high school, I did a little, plays, Romeo and Juliet, things like that, Midsummer Night's Dream. I sort of had this thing that I liked to do it. And so as I got older, I was really encouraged to finally go ahead and pursue it and not let it be a what-if story for my life.
Right. And then, as we know, theater, or maybe we don't know, but theater acting and film acting are very different. Did you want to go into theater at some point?
I think the idea of acting, I think any aspect. So sure, starting out doing theater, being trained in some theater when I was younger, but I also was fascinated with the screen aspect of acting. And it wasn't until I did a 48-hour film in San Diego, after I had done some, plays and things like that. But I did the first film I did, they screened this at a real theater. So you go to a real movie theater back when things were fine. And I saw myself on screen. I said, wow, I can pull this off. I look okay. I look okay up there. So that's when I was like, okay, let's give this a shot. And that's when I pursued that in earnest. And they're very different. You're right. I think what attracts me to the screen acting is that I can be a lot more natural and subtle on screen, because that camera will pick up all those subtleties that an audience at a large theater will not. And so you have to overemphasize certain things when you're doing stage productions, when you can be very, very, very small, as they say, on camera.
Right.
And I think the idea of being more natural and being more subtle, really more aligned with my personality, as far as how my emotions come out. They're very small and subtle. And so it was a challenge for me doing stage work to to bring those things out, to be big on, because I'm more of a subdued person naturally.
Yeah, and your acting shows that too. I can tell you just, just the way you say your lines, you deliver it, you make a pregnant pause. It's just so great, to see you in action
Thanks.
and to see you on television shows and stuff. What started you, like, okay, so you're an engineer, you're working. What did you do next? I mean, did you take some acting classes?
Yeah, well, yeah. As I was going through my career as an engineer, I thought it would be fun on the side to just kind of take up some acting classes while I was in San Diego. And the teacher was an actor that had worked in large productions, and I just got more and more into it. And I was also encouraged by some of the agents and casting people in San Diego to really take it seriously. And so I just made the decision and made the leap.
Oh, that's great. Well, we're all glad that you did. So on what show did you work on where you felt, wow, I'm doing it?
I'm doing it. Uh,
Yeah,
I'm do-
I'm here.
let's see. There's a couple. I mean, I think the first show that I really got a big break from was Criminal Minds, and that had, like, Shamar Moore and some veteran actors on that show, and my role was this politician who was doing this speech, his public speech, and it was Joe Mantegna was there as well in my scenes with me, and they originally auditioned me with this sort of half paragraph of a speech, and they're going to cut away from it, and then I booked the job, and then a couple of days before production, they're like, "Hey, Merrick, we got a big alert for you. We expanded your speech. So take a look at it, make sure you're okay with it, because it's a little much." And they brought it out to like a full page of a speech. And fortunately, working in things like indie productions and 48-hour films in San Diego, I was good on memorizing lines. So I was like, yeah, I got this. So that was, kind of realize that this is the job. This is being prepared, having that training come to work for you when you really need it, and getting out there on set on Paramount's backlot there, and having just everyone sort of treating you like you belong there, because you certainly earned it with your audition. And then the other celebrities like Joe Mantegna was taking pictures with me, and
Oh,
and
that's
Shemaya
great.
Moore. So it was like, this I'm doing it. This is it. This is a thing. So that was great.
Well, and also they must have saw something in you to write more lines for you. I mean, I don't know that they would do that for anybody.
Yeah, I think it was the casting director at the time. I had already done some stuff, and he'd seen me in things before, so I think he sort of gave them the assurance that, oh yeah, I think Merrick can handle more lines, so feel free. And so that really helped. Building relationships, that's another thing that actors miss out on. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that that's a great point. Networking is everything. And building relationships, like you're saying, you really have to be gracious and kind and show up prepared and then people want you back, I would think. So what was your road to becoming this full-time actor?
Oh, it was arduous. I say treacherous, but it
Yeah.
was like, so mine was a bit different, and I don't recommend this for anyone. But my path, because I basically just made my life this crazy thing where I was living in San Diego, having an agent in San Diego, and then getting an agent in Los Angeles. And when I would get an audition for a TV show or commercial, I was driving up to Los Angeles for the commercial and then driving back to San Diego. So my auditions, especially for commercials, are like 5 minutes. So imagine driving 2 to 3 hours up somewhere for this audition, do things like, all right, thank you. And then you walk out to your car. No, and there were a couple of times I had like an emotional breakdown, like, what the hell am I doing? But it was it's something that I knew I needed to do. There was no way that I could work in LA and live in San Diego if I wasn't willing to do that. They don't make it so that, oh yeah, just whenever it's convenient for you to come up for an audition, you got to come up when it's your audition time. And even in LA, there are a lot of actors that have a tough time getting away to do auditions, and it feels like it's a strain. But that's the work. And It takes time. You start out with really small roles, one line, couple words sometimes on your first, working jobs, and that's got to be okay because you're taking acting classes usually where they're having you memorize these great scenes that are really meaty, and then you go to audition and it's like the paperwork's right there, sir. That's your that's your line. So you got to be mentally prepared that that's the work, that it's sort of this step up process you've got to go through to really get the larger roles.
Yeah. So how did you do it being an engineer? I would think that would be a hard job to get away.
It is. It is. So I left engineering, and I ended up doing just part time work because I knew that there's no job that's going to allow you on a day's notice to take time off to go to audition. And living in San Diego was extremely hard because I would have to basically take the entire day off the next day, and there's no job I would have where they're like, okay, I'm sorry, guys. I can't make the meeting tomorrow. I've got to go to an audition. They're like, okay, well, you're fired.
Right.
And even in even in LA, there's it's a lot more common, I guess, up in LA, but it's still hard to let your boss know, hey, can I take an hour to go to this audition? And your total time might be 2 hours because of the driving you have to do. So you've got to find the right kind of job that will give you that kind of flexibility, and it's not easy to find.
Well, and what made you because you live in LA now, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So when did you decide I need to live there? This is just
When I absolutely had to. See, what happened was I was initially going up once, maybe twice a week from San Diego to LA. And then as my career started to really move forward and getting great representation, great auditions, and booking work, it got to be where it was like every other day at one point. And by the time it reached that point where it's every other day, it was like I got to move. There's no way, and I'm making enough to where I can sustain myself living in LA at this point. So that's when I said, okay, well, I've got to leave and be in the market that's I'm in demand in, which was Los Angeles.
okay. And then how do you prep for a role? Like, what's your thoughts on that?
It depends on the role. It depends on the type of project that it is. So there's for like a commercial, it can be very simple. You really kind of want to get the gag of the commercial. Typically, there's a gag or there's really sort of a point or selling point. And so, as long as you understand what the gag is or what the point is of that commercial, then the lines on a commercial are very, very few. They're really relying on your reaction, sometimes just your facial expression, and your delivery. So, it's a matter of make sure the lines are there because one of the tricks I use to book a lot is memorizing the lines. It's weird that a lot of people that audition for commercials don't memorize lines. I don't know why. But that's one thing. So just memorize the lines and get it. You got to just kind of get what the gag is. It's a really short premise on these commercials. But if it's a TV show or a movie, then it's more work. It's more, and again, I call it work, but it's something that I really enjoy. So, for example, I might get an audition for a TV show I've never seen, maybe not even really heard of. So the first thing I'll do is I'll go and watch at least one episode of that TV show so I can get what that TV show is about, what it's like. Is it fast paced? Is it really slow? Is it comedic? Is it, sort of a subtle, a dry humor? You want to get the tone of that TV show, right? So you kind of have an idea. And then you go over your script and you're trying to figure out how your character fits in this show. What this character likely fits in this show. Know who on the script that'll tell you who your other characters are that you're reading, that you're talking to. So you look up what actor is playing that character. So you have an idea. So you can visualize that actor, that's the actor that you're talking to. Then you're memorizing your lines, and my process is mainly repetition. I will record the other person's lines and read it off that recording. I'll have someone read with me in person just to kind of rehearse it. And what I'm trying to do is figure out what my mental cues are to know my next line to say. Like, why would I say this line next? What did that person say to me that makes me think I should say this line? So that's part of my memorization. And then after that, it is figuring out what my physicality is going to be in this audition, this scene. Am I standing? Am I sitting? Am I walking in? Am I looking at other people? Am I talking to more than one person? All these things need to be figured out. There's classes that teach you this, that will teach you how to prepare for your auditions, but preparing for auditions is it should be one of the funnest things you do as an actor, because you have all this freedom to create this character how you want that character to be and fit. And that's one of the freeing parts of this. And it's one of the main, it's a thing that I do more than anything else is audition. And actors should really learn to love that.
That's absolutely, because this is what you want to do. So wouldn't this be the fun part?
Right.
This is the work as anybody has a job.
Yeah, but I think some people come into this thinking that, oh, I just want to get hired, and they, oh, why do I have to audition? Auditions are so stressful. They freak me out. I'm like, well, this is your job, and this isn't the hardest part of the job. Auditioning is not the hard part. It's harder when you get to set and there's things you don't know and you got to figure out. So I've been to a set, worked on a TV show. They said, okay, we're gonna go to set for rehearsal, and I walked on a set. And they just start going through the scene for rehearsal. Didn't give me any direction of anything of what to do. And I had to just figure out what I was going to be doing for that scene. And that's how they decide how they're going to shoot the scene. Now, note, they don't give you an instruction, but you've got to know as a person, as an actor, what you need to do at those moments. So it can be scary. It can be intimidating. You're in a foreign setting. You're in these people that you don't know. You're meeting for the first time. You want to make an impression. You want to do well. All these things come into play. So you've got to have this skill and know-how to overcome that and be at your best. So the audition part is easy because you're at your own pace. You can make your own decisions. You can figure out how you want to say things. But on set, you got to figure out what you need to do. And then when they give you redirection on set, you got to know how to take direction. These are also things that take training and time.
Now, what about if you're working on two shows simultaneously? Have you ever had that happen where you have two different characters on two different sets?
I've being committed to multiple projects at the same time. I think you should have that time to sort of break down from what you're doing and sort of rebuild up to this other thing. I think once I was shooting a commercial, and it was this businessman type guy. And then I had to leave that day to go to shoot another project where I was this evil mob boss, murderous, evil mob boss who was killing people. So it was a matter of just kind of shifting your knowledge of where you are, what your circumstances are. So that's kind of what it takes. And I think that because the idea of method acting, where you're fully immersed in a character, how it can take weeks and you got to really work, you don't really use that until you're at a star level on a feature film, because those are, and it's like a whole thing. You're really trying to go into this whole other character, and so in those cases, you're not really going to have another project you're going to film with later that day. You're fully committed to this project for the full shoot window. If that makes sense. Yeah,
that's true. Yeah. Well, I would just wonder if, navigating the two roles, and especially when you have to memorize lines, is that challenging when you're going on one to the other and then going?
Yeah, it takes time and training. It's fortunate that I've had it to where memorizing lines is not hard for me. Like I said, simple things like using the other person's cues to figure out what I need to say next, and then the repetition, so that I rarely get stuck with not knowing lines. And also realize that even the big stars, the professionals that work as series regulars on TV shows, they screw up their lines all the time. So I'm sure you might not want to be the guy that only works on the show one day and still screws up lines, but realize that it's not like a thing that they're going to suddenly throw you off set because you missed your lines a couple of times. They'll let you do it until it's right. That's fine. But certainly work to memorize them and know why you're saying things. But memorizing lines should be something that you can do fairly quickly and fairly easily.
So, you also worked on a soap opera,
Mm-hmm.
General Hospital. How was that? Is that a different than regular TV shows, different feel and theme?
Yeah.
Than All American?
Yeah. For soap opera, General Hospital, Bold and the Beautiful, Young and the Restless, they're all the same mode of go. They're shooting 3-4 episodes a day. It's crazy. So, and they're moving on quick. So you've really just got to be ready. And that's knowing your lines, knowing how to quickly recover and go into the lines again. But it's a faster pace of work. You don't have to be fast in your acting, but the work pace is fast. So you need to be ready to be on the go there. Be prepared to, at a moment's notice, jump up and get into your role, into your character. Because sometimes you think you've got a break and all of a sudden, no, we're going to shoot this scene now, and you got to be able to run in there and do it. So just be prepared, be more alert on a soap opera.
Would you like to have a starring role on a soap opera, or what genre would you love to be a star in?
I think soap operas are good. They're fun. They're fast paced. I just don't think that my career goals line up with being starring on a soap opera as much as I like doing them. Mine will be more on the series regular. And I don't know. For me, it could be a detective show, a lawyer show. These are the kind of shows that I think I probably excel in.
Okay, so if there was a show that's out today, is there a show that you're like, I would love to be on that show?
Yeah, there's so many good shows out there. I think, and taking them for what they are. Even, I mean, NCIS, for example, is a great show where it's a combination of thriller, some drama, but also a lot of comedy. So you have a lot of versatility. It's a long-running show, well established. These are the kinds of things you'd want to have as a series regular. An established show that runs for many, many seasons, where it's fun. You've got some versatility. It's not just the one note thing. But also, there's like a limited series I saw called Mayor of Kingstown, which is really gritty, and it was just I couldn't stop watching it. As gritty as it was about a police force in a small town dealing with prisoners in prison. And that's a show that I auditioned for it, actually.
Oh, really?
I would have loved to have been on that show.
So what's the most challenging part of being an actor for you?
I think the most challenging part is dealing with not working. And by not working, I mean not auditioning. For me, at this point, I think I audition fairly regularly. If I go through a long stint of no auditions, of no fault of my own, even if I know it's just the industry is kind of shut down on a break, I feel this. I feel I don't know. It's not depression. It's like something's missing,
right?
So I feel in this sort of emptiness because I'm not doing that thing that I love to do. That's all.
So how do you get how do you get auditions? So you have an agent, I'm sure. And do you have a manager too?
So yes, I have a manager and I have multiple agents from different agencies. I have a commercial agent in Los Angeles. I have a theatrical agent in Los Angeles. I have a cross-the-board agent in San Diego still. I have a theatrical agent in Atlanta. All these people that work towards getting me auditions, they kind of keep me going. And what I do is work with them so that we have a very good, strong, positive relationship. They know that I'm working to progress in my craft, to be the best at what I do. And I always celebrate with all of them any of the accomplishments that I make, because anything as far as booking a role, it's a win for all of us. Even if it's not just money, if I book a TV show, sure, that the actual agent's the one that gets the commission for that. But the other agents get the bragging rights for that. Hey, I got this guy, Merrick, who was just on 911, or who was just on, so these are things that help all of us. And I make sure I treat all of my reps like we're all a team, because we really are.
Yeah. And then how do you do you have any words of wisdom to people that are acting and looking for an agent? Anything that you've learned over the years?
Yes. If you're looking for an agent, really, there's ways to do it that can be pretty methodical, strategic, systematic, so that it takes the stress and guessing game out of it. So that you're not worrying about if this is a reputable agent or manager or not. And you're not worrying about how to submit to this person or who to submit to as far as agency. There's ways to do that. So learn what that is. Learn how to find and submit yourself to an agent, and take the stress out of that as much as you can. And that way you can get in the habit of just submitting. If you don't have an agent, keep submitting. Agents, for whatever reason, may not be ready for you. They may have someone that's just like you at the moment. They may be too busy to take a look at your stuff. And that's just part of the business. But it does not mean that they don't want you. You don't know. You have to keep submitting. And there's so many agents. And in LA especially, but in most of the markets that have productions going, there's multiple agents out there. And you just got to keep plugging away to get their attention, to at least have a meeting with you. So, it's all about your persistence with getting an agent. It's Just takes time.
Now, do you find places to audition, or is it really through your agents that get you the auditions?
My agents get me the auditions, but I have the ability to submit myself for work if I want to. They're not as good at paying jobs or higher roles as my agents would get, but there are casting services that you can use that will allow you to submit yourself. Because my agents tend to submit me for larger, more established roles of bigger projects, I just leave the submitting to them. Because what I don't want is me to be out there, trying to hustle and submit myself, and all of a sudden something I submitted for conflicts with something they've been submitting me for. And that would be, that would cause a problem.
Do you still take acting classes? Like, what do you do to continue to grow as an actor?
Absolutely continue taking acting classes. I do it. Every actor should have ongoing classes. Even if you have an MFA or BFA from an acting school or college or university, you still need to take ongoing classes. There's no, you learn how to act, you're done. It doesn't work that way.
Right.
It's a continual process with yourself. Even the great actors have acting coaches. Meryl Streep has an acting coach. So every actor needs to continue with their ongoing training, even if it's in a different discipline. If you want to maybe try out some improv for a bit, if you want to focus your studies on auditioning, there's classes that are just for that. If you want to learn singing, those are great as well, but continue growing and using your craft as much as you can.
And how do you like working with a director? How would you best want to work with someone?
I think a director that we have a good form of communication where they can tell me what they want, and they can at least give me some kind of signal of the feedback of whether I did what they wanted. Both of us with that feeling of productivity and that positive energy between us. I don't think I've worked with a bad director that made me feel bad about being on a set before. I guess I hear it happens. I mean, certain levels it can happen to people. Fortunately, I haven't had any kind of abusive situations to deal with. But these are things that it can usually be hammered out right before you start shooting anything. You kind of, at least by way of introduction, you can kind of get an idea of how things are going to go with them. But generally, good professional directors know how to treat actors. It's a big part of their job is working and treating actors in such a way that they can get the best performance and have a great time and have a positive shoot.
Have you ever thought about going into directing?
I have not.
Okay. I'm always curious.
Yeah, I haven't, only because I feel like for me, I have committed so much of my time to being a successful actor and working on larger projects that I worry, I guess, that if I start to diverge from that and get into directing, and next thing you know, I'm not even acting anymore. And now it's like, maybe it's fulfilling to me in some way, but I feel genuinely that this is what I want to do. And I've seen directing. I've been on the other side of the camera, helping actors, helping a production work. And directing I know, involves so many other things that are not acting that I haven't really thought about. Perhaps later on, I could direct something if it'll something I feel strongly about. But for the most part, where I am right now is where.
Yeah. Well, that's great. You just hear about a lot of these actors are now becoming directors. So I was just curious.
Yeah, I think part of that too is that a lot of actors want to stay involved in the industry. And a lot of times actors, after working on so much stuff and becoming such a established actor in the field, they start to have this idea that, hey, I want a project out there that I'm a part of, that I have some more control over how it looks, how it goes. And that's great. I hope to get to that point where I'm feeling like I want to, just be director and not act just for the sake of a project being the way I want it. But I'm not quite there yet, is all. And also, I think that some actors, it's like, hey, they're getting older. They're not finding as much work. They're getting offers to direct, or they're thinking that might be an extra thing to do until they find the role they want, which is great. There's lots of reasons why actors go into direct.
Now, could you tell me like a time on set, Brooklyn Nine-Nine, I love that show, or Curb Your Enthusiasm? Walk me through a day. Like, what does it look like when you get to set? Is everybody I guess every set could be different with friendly, but a good experience. Do you mind sharing a good experience on set?
Sure. Yeah. Generally when you arrive to set, and I'll try to be as general as I can given, the pandemic issues now, but you arrive to set, there's someone to greet you and show you to where you'll be residing while you're on set. Be it a trailer, be it a room inside the office of the building that you're shooting in, and you set your things there. You kind of get situated. They will inform you of what the agenda is. They'll say, okay, in about 15 minutes, I will come get you for hair and makeup. And then after that, we'll put you in a wardrobe. And then you'll be waiting until they call you to set. Or it could be, hey, about 15 minutes we're serving lunch. Would you like me to bring you anything for food? These are common things. Or they'll say, hey, if you need to let me know, but otherwise, Crafty is just down this way here. If you want to grab some food, go ahead. But otherwise, sit tight and we'll just let you know what the next steps are. They have someone there that will guide you throughout your day of what you need to do. So you have usually a private area that you can relax in, generally a trailer, and it's nice, it's comfortable. At least a couch is usually in there for you to lay down on if you want. There's a television. There's oftentimes a fridge. There's outlets for you to do work if you want to work on your laptop or watch a movie on your own or something like that, or simply do the work of getting prepared for your scene.
Yeah.
And these are generally private areas that you have. For wardrobe, they will usually have your wardrobe already in your trailer, or they might bring it to you later. And so when you get into your wardrobe, you're supposed to walk out, go over to the wardrobe people and have them approve you for the wardrobe, meaning they might take a picture and they'll send it to the director and he'll say, okay, yeah, that looks great. And this is after you've gotten your hair and makeup done as well. And then you're back in your trailer and kind of waiting until they call you to set. Once they're ready for you on set, you're escorted over to set. If it's a ways away, they'll have a transportation vehicle, even if it's a golf cart. They'll ride you over, even if it's not long of a walking distance. They like to put you in these. They like to pamper you. When
Right.
you're a principal actor with the speaking role, they like to pamper you quite a bit, which is fun, which is alluring. You get to set. If you haven't met the director yet, they introduce themselves to you. So is his assistant director. And then once they get a quick break, they will introduce you to the entire production. Everyone, this is Merrick McCartha joining us today as Detective Harrison. And when it claps, it's really a big
Oh,
deal.
wow.
That generally happens on, certainly if you do sitcoms, they'll do that for sure. But generally, they'll introduce you to everyone. Everyone kind of welcomes you that way. The main actors of the show will come up and introduce themselves to you generally and say, hi, how are you? Good to meet you. And then you run through a rehearsal. The rehearsal is just as actors, without meeting each other, working on this for days. How do you naturally move in this scene? So they have you rehearse the scene, just letting you go free. Generally, they might tell you this is your starting point, or they'll say do whatever you want. But you go into the scene, and then that helps the director figure out how they want the cameras to be set up around this scene. That's all that's for, is that rehearsal. They expect you to know your lines. They expect you to kind of get all the beats and everything like that. If they don't, they'll fine tune that later on. But they generally just kind of want to see the look and feel of the scene with all the actors there. Then after that, you go back and you sit down on a cast chair, and they will have stand-ins come in for you that will stand in your place for the camera angles and camera setup. They'll just stand where you were sitting or move where you were moving, and they'll get that set up and ready to go. Once that's done, then they call you back to set to shoot the scene. And at that point, you're working through that scene. It'll do a couple takes. Generally, how it works is you have a camera set up where they're facing one group of actors on one side, do the whole scene that way. Then you stop, and then they give you another break because they're going to change the cameras around to do what's called a reverse, which means setting the cameras on the other side to get the other side of the actors from the other side of the room. And that's pretty standard. One first scene, first shot, then the reverse. That's pretty much a standard thing. Then you do those scenes from the different angle, the exact same way you did them before, generally, even if the camera's not on you. Even if you're not on camera, you want to keep all that energy there for continuity. And then when you're done, if that's your only scene, you're done for the day. They will escort you back to your trailer and let you get undressed. And they will let you sign out and you're done for the day. If you have more scenes, you go back to your trailer. You simply wait for them for your next scene. If it's a whole nother day, they'll have another set of wardrobe for you to change into for that other day. When I say other day, meaning that in this show, your show takes place within multiple days and you're in more than one of those days within the show's timeline, but they may be shooting it in one actual day. So when I say if you're on another day, it means they will have another set of clothes for you for that other day within the timeline of the show. But if you're in an actual another day, meaning they have booked you for multiple days for a project, then you might go home and they'll simply send you your call sheet for the next shoot day, and you go to set and go through the same thing all over again.
So when you get to set and you're looking, are you thinking, okay, how am I going to navigate through this scene? Or do you already kind of have it in your head, especially if you've seen the show before and maybe you go, oh, it's going to be in there. So now I know. Are you thinking about like, am I going to walk around? How do you navigate that once you're on there? If they said free reign?
I think that's all part of your training as an actor, to figure out what's natural for you and your character development of what's natural for that character to do. So these are things that you simply need to be trained and ready to do. I can't really tell you.
Okay. Okay. So you just go in there and you can do it.
Yeah.
That's great. So we all aspire to be there. And then, so you don't get to interact with the other actors? Nobody comes by?
Let me clarify that too. So typically, if you are going in and you're getting set up, the other actors in the scene with you, we'll huddle around together and talk a little bit, chit chat. We'll do a rehearsal, and then when we're taking our break, they're sitting us all together for us to chit chat and talk and goof around. Like on All American, we goof around all the time. It's funny. If you ever watch Taye Diggs' Instagram, it's hilarious.
Yeah.
He just talk stuff on set. Just he's a funny person in general. We'll play games. We joke and just make crack jokes the whole time. A lot of that, it depends on the set you are in, but a lot of that's fun. For Criminal Minds, way back then, we're sitting around, we're taking pictures of each other, we're telling stories. It's just a fun time to interact and kind of get to know each other. So that's always great.
Now, is that important, like, to take pictures with other actors? Like, do you do that on set for yourself and post?
I shy away from it now, but my wife will kill me sometimes. I don't have some pictures. She's a visual person. She's a photographer, so she loves to see photographs of me with these things. So I will take a picture. If it's, if you got to feel it. I mean, you can't certainly walk up to an actor you've never spoken a word to and say, hey, can I get your picture? That's kind of awkward and can be off-putting. So make sure you at least have some kind of comfort level. And generally, it's done that way. How it works is you shoot the scene, and usually when you're done with your scene, someone invariably will go, hey, let's all get a picture. And so you jump in and you start taking pictures. And that's the cue for you to just go crazy taking pictures. And right at this point, directors, crew, they're all fine with it. No one really gives you a hassle about it because everyone has a cell phone now. But yeah, you'll feel the vibe when it's picture time. You'll get it. But certainly wait till at least you've had a conversation or chit-chatted with someone before you ask them for their photo.
Yeah. I think that there's always a protocol. And you just got to, hopefully you don't overstep. All American, how did you get that? Like, how did that come about? And I hear that's a great show and you have a lot of fun on it. So is this one of your favorites?
It's one of those things where you take on a role, and it initially was a small role. And I did one episode where it was just a small co-star role. And it happened to be the dad of Simone, who's a heavily recurring regular on that show. And they did another episode where I guess they wanted to see mom and dad again. So they asked me back. And it was, again, going to be a short, quick scene. And I thought, okay, well, this is just another short, quick scene. And that morning of the shoot, they called me and said, hey, we're having an emergency here on set. Something happened. So can you come in early? We have an extra scene for you to shoot because someone we had wasn't able to be here to shoot it. And we're going to write you in. I'm like, sure. So I get to set early. And they have this new scene they've kind of formulated for me. And again, that skill of memorization, I don't worry about memorizing at all. So I'm like, great, let's do it. And so do that scene, and then we do the new scene that I was there to do originally. And then after that, they're like, after that scene I was going to do already was done, they came up to me and said, hey, you know what? The other person we had for the day isn't going to make it at all. So we really need you to do a couple more scenes for us. Is that okay? Is that okay?
Yeah, right.
Wait, so you want me to do the thing I love doing and get paid well for? You're going to do more of that? Okay. Yeah, of course. So so that turned into a bigger guest star role for that episode. And I was really kind of dominant throughout the whole episode because of that. And then after that, like the next day, my agent got a note saying, okay, we want Merrick back for 3 more episodes coming up in a couple months. And that was just kind of how it started.
So, Merrick, what would you suggest or tell struggling actors out there?
I think that struggling actors should know that it's been said a lot. There's really no such thing as a failed actor. There's only an actor that's given up. So if you persist, if you work and train hard and be professional, maintain your professionalism, and do good work, you will have a fulfilling career as an actor. It may not even be what you thought it would be when you started, but it just takes persistence to make it as an actor. They say talent or having the it factor, all that stuff, blah blah blah. The reality is it takes persistence. So you want to make sure that you have a solid mindset about what this career is and really understand the business. So persistence, business savvy, and continue training always.
Well, thank you so much for being on the show today, Merrick. It was a pleasure having you.
My pleasure being here. Good seeing you again, Tim.
Thank you so much for listening. I encourage you to get out there and make a film. Reach out to your local filmmakers group to get involved and connect. Please subscribe to the show if you like it, and follow me on Instagram at Tammy Magaro. Until we meet again, what's your story?